Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemaphilepod.com. It's the day after Christmas in suburban Florida, and Billy 5000 and his friends pass the time seemingly of endless days by slacking, shoplifting, and beatboxing. In between lounging on the beach and sneaking into pools, Billy spends his time hustling on a food-on-demand app called Grubster. And I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot to talk about in this film, a lot of funny and interesting characters and perspectives in this wonderful film called Boys Go to Jupiter. And we're joined today by the director and writer, Julian Glander. Julian, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a treat to be here.
Thank you so much. I can't get too far into our conversation without saying what inspired this and what are you, and I will ask you what your influences are because it's just such a clever concept. Tell me a little bit about the origin of this.
I think it started story-wise, it started with this New York Times article that I had read about an orange juice company called Natalie's Orange Juice. And this woman had started the company and named the orange juice after her daughter, Natalie. She was having a hard time passing the company over to her daughter. I thought that sort of image of like succession or like some chamber drama happening within an orange juice company it really tickled my Florida brain. It was behind the New York Times paywall, so I didn't read the whole article. So I pretty much just read what I said to you, and sort of that started building out this like surreal Florida world. And it became a story of a delivery driver moving through the suburbs of Tampa or somewhere in Central Florida, learning about its inhabitants and coming of age.
Because you brought it up, I've never been to Florida.
Never.
Never been to Florida, but I have to say, and I don't want to sound like this is reinforcing stereotypes, but it feels like you nailed Florida.
It's hard to nail because it is such a weird place. It is the most, I think, like the way other countries see America, America sees Florida, because it's kind of the place where it all happens, where people seem to have total freedom and everyone has like really strong, strange ideologies. I definitely would say if you've never been to Florida, no reason to start now, no reason to see it now. Yeah, I think depictions of Florida in cinema, are kind of all over the place. There's obviously the Florida Project, and then there's like Scarface, or I'm trying to think of something like Bad Boys takes place in Miami.
Yeah.
But I think the general like overarching constant is a sense of lawlessness, which is, I think, great story fodder.
Yeah. And I would reframe what I said and to say these are brushstrokes of a portrait of Florida, but I feel like those are strong brushstrokes in identifying a place that you just described.
That's nice. I haven't been back I lived there when I was in high school. I haven't been back in probably 15 years. So it's more of a memory of Florida, or how I want to remember it, than how it actually is.
There you go. Well, and the animation style. Well, let's talk about the story. I outlined it in the introduction, but in your own words, how would you describe the story of Boys Go to Jupiter?
Sure. I think it's the story of a 16-year-old boy who is trying to figure out a future for himself in a place where there are not very many great futures available. And it's a story of someone who starts the movie very involved in, I guess you'd call it, hustle culture. Mm-hmm. And he makes deliveries. He goes around. He meets a lot of people sort of in a search to find a way to be. And by the end, he finds something, is how I would describe it. It's very broad, but that's kind of the skeleton of it. And there's aliens.
And
I feel like that should be in the synopsis.
And there are aliens. Although it's a little uncertain as to whether or not they were lab created or they're from somewhere else. At least the impression I got was they could have been created here and turned into what an alien life form might look like or be like. So that was a little uncertain to me. Okay, there you go. I'll go with what you say.
I've been using the word aliens. I actually am not sure either. I like how you're framing it, because it's true. We don't really find out where they come from, but they're creatures for sure. They're not people, and they're not amphibians.
Yeah,
So
and yeah,
there's something else.
and they're creatures who like being here, apparently.
But they're having a great time. And I think certainly one thing I was thinking of was like, well, what if aliens did come to Florida? What if aliens came to Earth and the first thing they saw was the gas station, and all the kind of many treats we have? And yeah, what if you could have Gatorade for the first time and really appreciate it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It again, there's so much about the film that feeds into this otherness, this way of looking at life, a skewed version of life. The animation is wonderful. I made some allusion to some of my favorite cartoons of the last 50 years, and I don't know where you drew the inspiration, how all of this part of the film came together, but it takes a minute to get in. Although if you're used to video games, this is almost a seamless transition. For me, I'm not of the video game culture, but it feels like there's some inspiration from the world of video games.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the biggest video. Okay, I can get addicted to any video game, and I have. I've played so much Fortnite and other games that like have like no redeeming artistic value. And I think part of it is I wasn't allowed to have video games growing up. I was in a no video games house, and so they were very special and tempting to me. One game I played a lot is The Sims, which I think really informed this sort of top-down isometric look and this sort of The Sims it's also a very sly and funny and silly critique of consumerism that sort of implicates you because you're enjoying the pleasures of consumerism, but you kind of see how cheap and empty it is. That's my read of The Sims that I had when I was 11, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and Sims players will know that Rozebud, which is the name of one of the characters in the movie, is the infinite money cheat code from the game.
Okay, I did not know that. Well, so that particular look, that vibe that you're talking about, and the way you develop the characters in the film, there's a very lived in feel to the characters. Everyone seems to know a lot about the other people that they're dealing with, the good and the bad. They sort of incorporate that into their world perspective of the place they live and also of the people that they know, which I loved. That's one of the things I really felt was a real strength of the film was that sort of interaction with the characters. There was a lot of, I would call it shorthanding in the description and their interactions with one another.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think in terms of how grounded and real the characters feel, I have to fully give it to my cast on that one. It is a really amazing
Yeah.
voice cast, and certainly there are characters like Sarah Sherman's character who brings in a lot of her baggage from her previous work, where she's this sort of lunatic John Waters-esque evangelical neighbor. And when you know Sarah Sherman and you kind of know how she does things, it just adds like that much more punch to it, I feel.
Well, how did you assemble the cast? Was this something that you put out of the casting call, or did you know a lot of these people like Jack Corbett, well, Janeane Garofalo? Just how did that all
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
unfold?
It was a mix. It was mostly we found that when we tried to go the traditional way of going through agents or casting, it just was not happening. Nobody on the Hollywood side of things really wanted to look at this or really understood what it was. And so for the most part, we pulled the cast by reaching out on Instagram DMs. And yeah, Sarah, I had known for a long time. We had both worked on this like socialist streaming service called Means TV. So we knew each other from that. And Jack, I had been messaging for years just as a fan of his TikToks. Janeane was the last person we cast, Janeane Garofalo, and we went through her manager, and she doesn't have a cell phone or a computer. So her manager prints stuff out for her and takes it to her house, and then she decides if she wants to do it or not. And it's like, I love that. Like, can you imagine being that free and untethered from like all this stuff that runs our lives?
That is a great story to hear about Janeane Garofalo because to my mind, she has been, for me, one of the most upfront people in her line of work as a comedian, as a stand-up, and basically in her general bearing. And she has pretty much stayed true to herself since I've known of her. So that's a great story to hear. actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things I love about her, and I've been a fan since Mystery Man, which was the first VHS I ever bought. But she's such a yeah, I mean, she's very high integrity and
Yeah.
brilliant as well. And she came in and was really professional, which she did not have to be. Like, she came in with notes that she had written on the script, which was so far beyond what she needed to do for this.
Awesome. Awesome. And her integrity has cost her over the course of her career. And again, that's another reason why I feel the way I do about her. But there's Julio Torres, who has been hotter than a pistol for about a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
Congrats on, this is really a great cast. Eva Victor, there's a lot of things you must have seen over the horizon to bring them
Well,
into.
we invested early on some of these people. Well, Julio, yeah, all these people I've been a fan forever. Ava, I knew their Twitter and their comedy from Twitter. I had no idea that they were working on like this masterful, insanely brilliant, devastating drama. I think if I knew that that was the direction they wanted to go, I wouldn't have asked them to do this movie because it's so silly and seems so slight. But yeah, when we got Cola Scola right before O'Mary came to off Broadway, and that was just a lucky get.
In addition to the fact that it's fun, it's a fun hang, if you will, too. In addition to being a fun watch, it's a fun hang because it does feel like this is really kind of the vibe. These people yeah, they're just getting through life. It is, and I don't want to overstate this. I don't want to make this a political statement, but it's a commentary on the life that a lot of people are living in this new kind of iteration of the workforce in America. This is not uncommon. And the attitudes about their investment in society, it's another kind of comment on that as well. How invested can you be in this kind of an economic atmosphere, if you will, if that's the right word to use. Another thing I like about it is that it's more than just what it appears it might be. And my congratulations to you on that.
Wow, that's a very generous read of the movie. I can't tell you how much that means to me.
Well, and again, I mean, going back to the theme of our conversation, and it's been in terms of the reaction among the glitterati, the critics has been very good, very solid. Are you going to continue in this realm of filmmaking, or are you branching out? Do you feel like you're ready to tackle more narrative filmmaking?
I don't know. I think, I've been thinking a lot about this and writing another feature. And I think for me, it is important to make it in a different way, to not just run the exact same play over and over again.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't know what that means. I think, to your point, we have certainly exceeded my little expectations. I thought we were going to make this movie. We were going to play it at one good festival and it was going to go on YouTube. And then I was going to kind of just keep zooming through my life. So now that it's here and it's reaching people, I find who knows? Who
Who knows?
knows?
Yeah. That is a great place to be, to have to feel like you have these kind of options. By the way, I just want to go back to this. At Tribeca, was that last year? And
Yeah.
Indie Memphis, winner of Best Narrative. Congrats.
Thank you.
And went to a lot of film festivals and did very well received. Really happy for you because these are the kind of movies and filmmaking that I gravitate to. People step a little bit outside the lines, draw outside the lines, and take on a project that pays off. And I do really feel like this film really does pay off. I love the way that the film unfolds at the end, especially at the end, because there's a lot of ways that you could have gone. I just feel like you really landed in a pretty damn good spot with this.
Wow. I think the ending is a good way to kind of think about it because it is, without spoiling, it is not the ending that any animation studio would ever let me do. It's the ending that would get red pen all over it because it is quite strange. And I think, yeah, there's sort of a paradox here where by not making this movie for the biggest possible audience, I think people, when they watch it, can really sense how personal it is and how personal every decision and every action of it is, which has led to not a $100 million box office, but certainly a chance for us to get this in front of people, which
Yeah.
is really special.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that following your own muse is what you were intended to do. It's what it feels like, and I wish you all the best moving forward. I just think the world of these kind of films, especially animated films, we don't see that many great animation films in this. There's a lot of great animation films that come out through major studios, Pixar and otherwise,
Mhm.
but you don't often see this kind of work come out of nowhere, in a sense. And I'm really happy for you. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mike. I hope we see more of these. I think we will. I think more people will start doing this. The tools are there, the community is there. As an animation fan, I'm with you. I want to see a dozen of these every year. Just little, strange personal features to complement the big stuff that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some brave animated filmmakers out there who I've been fortunate enough to have conversations with over the years, and I totally agree with you because those are the ones that, again, at the end of the day, those. I mean, you can talk about Toy Story, you can talk a lot of How to Train Your Dragon. They're great films, they're wonderful, they're empathetic and emotional, but these are the films that you treasure in a different
Wow.
kind of way. Yeah. So, well, my congratulations. Again, the film is called Boys Go to Jupiter. We've been speaking with the writer and director, Julian Glander. Julian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. What a treat.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.